You are now listening to Killing the Void with Andrew Parks, a podcast series.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Killing the Void podcast. This will be episode number 11, so please check out the other 10 episodes. Tell me what you think, leave comments. I got episodes on Facebook, on my website, killingthevoid.com. Anyways, this episode number 11 will be on the month of October of 2018. It'll be on news, and I'll be going over all the highlights of what's going on in the world and in our country. United States, obviously. I got the American flag rolling in the background. And I really want to get the point across that I'm an independent. I'm not Republican. I'm not a conservative. I'm not a I'm not socialist. I'm not liberal. All that stuff. I'm truly an independent, and I'll try to be honest and middle of the road as possible when talking about these subjects. Unfortunately, for most liberal listeners, I do tend to agree more with the conservatives on current points in our country. So, with that said, let's get started. At the beginning of October, everything was all about this court case with Christine Blasey Ford and Brett Kavanaugh. He was trying to become a Supreme Court justice. He did 6 FBI background investigations on him. So let's kind of talk about how this all started. Christine Ford, she said that when she was 15, she was 15 years old in 1982. And she went to a party in the summer, and Brett Kavanaugh was also there. He was 17 at the time. And she said he was very drunk, and they were upstairs, like, I believe it was in a bathroom. I could be mistaken on that part. But anyways, it was her, Kavanaugh, and his friend. And she said that he got her to the ground, had his hand over her face, her mouth, and was groping her. So that's the extent of the allegation. And then we had a couple other women come forward saying that Brett did some weird stuff in college and then later again in his life. They called the lawyer that was bringing all these women together, if they call him the creepy porn lawyer on the news. Uh, it's because he's a lawyer for a lot of porn sites like Pornhub and all that. So they call him the creepy porn lawyer. The other ladies didn't really pan out. They didn't help Christine Ford's court case. So she had to do this all on her own. And how the story came out, she written a letter to Dianne Feinstein and told her about, don't elect him as a Supreme Court judge. This is what he did to me when I was in high school. And then it went from there. She also said in the letter to Feinstein, please don't tell anyone. I'm just telling you so you know that, just be what is the correct word? Be warned that Kavanaugh is this type of person. Alright, so Feinstein most likely is the one that leaked this letter to everyone, to the news, to everyone, backstabbing Christine Ford, and then all hell breaks loose. Okay, so now we have the liberals up in arms, women's rights, feminists, everybody, the rape culture is strong in America right now, the anti-rape because of what happened with Bill Cosby, and then the Me Too movement with Hollywood, everybody's saying I was raped, and I'm not going to say that didn't happen to these people, and I'm not going to, because that's very bad. Nobody should be raped. Nobody should be taken advantage of. And even this lady Ford, if she said he did it, he might have been the one that did it. I really don't know. That's the issue. Nobody knows other than her and him. And that's why we had this court. Well, anyways, like I said at the beginning of the episode, there was he's had 6 FBI background investigations done on him in the course of his lifespan. And they never found any of this that came out. For over 30 years, she kept this a secret. And so they called for another FBI background investigation. They put the entire FBI department on it. So instead of a background investigation taking 6 to 11 months, which is the usual thing, you usually have one or two investigators working on each file, and it would take, 6 to 11, 12, 13 months to complete a background investigation. Well, they had 40 plus FBI agents. So imagine 40 FBI agents sitting in a room, all working on this case, digging up the entire life of Brett Kavanaugh. All right. So they did that in less than a week. The liberal media was very upset that it took so fast. But you have to imagine the amount of man hours that they're doing. They're in there all day long for 8 to 10 hours a day times 40 people. So that's a lot of man hours. A lot of man hours. So I believe this investigation, even though it felt rushed, it was done properly. And who are we to discredit our FBI agents? And especially when they lean left. They are liberals mostly. So, and that's most law enforcement in general. A lot of people don't understand that. Most of our American law enforcement, they switched left during the Clinton administration because he gave a lot of money to the police, to law enforcement countrywide. So every state got lots of money to upgrade all their law enforcement agencies. So what a lot of people don't understand is that law enforcement is primarily Democratic. So wrap that around your mind, because all we hear about on the liberal news is how awful our cops are, how awful ICE is, how awful, well, they like FBI, but how awful most of our law enforcement agencies are when they're actually liberals themselves. So it's kind of twisted. We're always trying to do what's best for our country, right? So anyways, let's move on. Okay, so this court case goes on, and I know I'm kind of sticking in this a little long. I'm sorry. I'm sure most of you guys know what's going on. Anyways, the case was dismissed. They couldn't find enough information. One of the things that hurt Ford was she couldn't remember any specifics. All she remembered was Brett Kavanaugh's face. She couldn't remember what house it was in, what year exactly. Her story kept changing. It kept twisting. Oh yeah, I remember this, and then oh wait, no, I don't remember that. So that really, really hurt her. It backfired. Also, the other witnesses, they never came forward. They said they don't remember the party. They don't remember Brett Kavanaugh being that way. One of the things that did hurt Brett Kavanaugh in this court case was he was shouting, he was yelling, because this whole scandal has affected his personal life. His wife, not trusting him anymore. Obviously divorce was probably discussed inside their relationship. The child not understanding what's going on with their father, crying daily. The whole family being attacked by liberal media and liberals. And again, I'm independent, so I'm not attacking liberals, but that was what was going on because everybody believed Ford. And on the other hand, the Republicans were attacking Ford. So see, now I'm being fair. Calling her a liar, saying she doesn't remember anything, calling her, saying that all she wants is attention. It's very rare, but there are some people that just want attention and they will lie for it. But I'm not saying that's what Ford did. Maybe this really did happen to her, and like I said, maybe it really was a Kavanaugh, or it could have been someone else. But unfortunately, she waited too long to tell someone, and the evidence trail grew cold and died out. So we really will never know what happened. And when watching the court case, I really don't know. Yeah, he was angry, And yes, she seemed all over the place. And really, and that's really what all anybody could say. We really don't know what happened. So when this court case was thrown out, the Democrats came over, a couple of them, and some of the Republicans on the fence, they voted in Kavanaugh. So he's our newest Supreme Court judge on the panel. And so that's story number 1 of October. And let's get to story number 2. Alright, so the next news stories to hit October that made a bang and a bam and all that kind of noise was Dianne Feinstein going under investigation now by Senator Graham. Senator Graham is on the Republican Party. He's accusing Feinstein and her team of leaking the letter from Ford. And so if this could have some political fallout on the Democratic Party if it does come back that they are the ones that leaked it. Right now, Feinstein's corner is saying that Ford and her attorney leaked it. And Ford and her attorney are saying that Feinstein's team leaked it. And so that's why the Republicans are saying, well, we're just going to do a probe and figure out what the hell is going on. All right, so that we're done with that follow-up. Now on to the part 2 follow-up is Matt Damon. Matt Damon was accused earlier in the year of 2018 for sexually harassing a young lady. This was part of the Me Too movement. Matt Damon came out on the news for about a week. He said, hey, I'm coming out on the news because I want everybody to know that I'm innocent. Usually when people aren't innocent, what they would do is they would pay people under the table. And this is very common in Hollywood. He kind of ratted out Hollywood, saying that a lot of producers do that just to kind of so they don't have the political backlash of their next movies that are coming out. And Matt Damon said by coming out on the news that he is innocent. But the reason why Matt Damon made the news headlines on October is because he came out on a late night show making fun of Brett Kavanaugh. He actually impersonated him and made a buffoon of Brett Kavanaugh and made it pretty clear that Matt Damon believes Ford's story and he thinks Kavanaugh is guilty. Well, the Republicans and the Fox News Network came out slaughtering Matt Damon, over how can he just had to go through this earlier in the year. Why would he stick his nose in something when he doesn't really know the truth? And it's kind of two-faced of Matt Damon, yada yada yada. The liberals then, they went from hating Matt Damon, believing that he was a sexual harasser, to now Matt Damon's my hero because he's coming out on behalf of Ford. So in the end, this kind of probably helps Matt Damon get back on the ends with Hollywood so he could do more movies with them. On the other hand, it's now probably going to hurt the movies that he's going to make, hurt them from making as much money, because now Republicans are upset with him and they're not going to go watch his movies. All right, so that's the follow-up of the court case. We are done with that. I'm going to kick it to the curb. We're not going to talk about it no more because I'm sick and tired of this court case. All right, guys, on to story number 3, where Honda recalls over 230,000 cars. Most of these are the 2018 Honda Accords and 2019 hybrids. The reason why is the backing up camera for these vehicles is being faulty. It's not showing the correct images when you're backing up. A lot of the newer vehicles, if you guys are older and have older vehicles, they have actual backup cameras so you could see behind you and you don't have to look backwards. You don't have to tilt your head. Alright, so if you have a Honda Accord that's a 2018 or a 2019 Honda Hybrid, you guys are probably going to want to see if you got that recall letter in the mail and get those cameras fixed. Honda did say there was absolutely no wrecks yet that are pertain to this. They just had a lot of people complaining about the cameras not working correctly. Alright, so let's move on to number 4 of October, the next news story. Thank you. Alright, so the next story to hit the news headlines was a former U.S. attorney named Joe DeGeneva. he came out and started laying into whoever got him on their news. It backfired on them. The liberal outlet wanted to interview him, and he just started going off on liberal politics, the Democratic Party in general, saying that he wishes they all would go to hell, that everything they're doing is on purpose. It's that they're on purposely trying to do everything to undermine Trump. They're not respecting him as a president. And him, I believe he was a Democrat, de Geneva. And so he's basically just tired of what's going on. And they're making a circus of the media. And so he basically came out and just had this big soapbox. It blew up all over the internet on how he wishes the whole party would just go to hell. All right, so let's move on. All right, guys, so next we have Senator Warren. She hits the news a few times in October, so I'm just going to do her all in one section. All right, so most of you may know her as Pocahontas, that Trump has coined her nickname. It is childish of Trump. He could be a dick sometimes and name call people. It's funny to some, and it's upsetting to others. But so Warren made the news headlines in October basically because she was not doing so well in her political race as senator. So she came out and said, you know what, I think I'm going to run for president in 2020. So now this gives her lots of support in her state to keep being a senator. So she kind of saved herself there. Next is just very recently, in the past couple days of October, she came out. She said she did her DNA test to show that she is actually 1 in 1,000% Native American. Okay, so this really backfired on her. So at one point earlier in the month, she comes out and says she's going to run for president. It helps her. Then she comes out and says she's 1/1000th Native American, and this hurts her. So how did this hurt her exactly? Because she's proven Donald Trump wrong. So Donald Trump earlier, he named her Pocahontas. He said, hey, if you take a DNA test, I'll donate $1 million to your favorite charity if it shows that you are indeed Native American. Well, she wanted to prove right before the elections, because they're coming up, that he is wrong and she is right. So she had a college student actually do her DNA test, and it did show that she had Native American, but the Native American that she is actually South Native American. So myself, I'm Native American too, but my roots are in Mexico, the Aztecs. So hers are actually even further south. They're like in Panama Colombia or something like that. So her Indian heritage, her great grandparent 10 times removed, was from South America. All right. So not even from North America. And she only has 1/1024th Native American. So this really backfired on her because first the liberal media came out. They said, oh my God, look, Donald Trump's wrong. He owes her $1 million to her favorite charity. And Donald Trump says, no, that's not enough. That's not really anything. Anybody can have 1/1000th of Native American, just like everybody is part black. So they all call him a liar and how he doesn't tell the truth and how he owes her money. Then the Native Americans in America came out and said, hey, Donald Trump doesn't owe you money, but we don't like Donald Trump either. He's a dickhead. All right? And we don't like her either because she's doing cultural appropriation, which is a liberal term that Democrats really love to stick in conservatives' faces, when now that term is being backfired on them. Basically, they're saying that Warren is not a Native American, at least to America, because she doesn't belong to any tribe. First of all, that's how you are a Native American. You need to belong to a tribe. And she has never belonged to a tribe in her lifetime, and neither have her parents or her grandparents. So they wouldn't even accept her even if she tried to join. But they said there are instances in their history where you don't even have to be blood related. You don't have to have Cherokee or Navajo or whatever, that you could actually join a tribe and become a Native American in the history of America if you were adopted into a Native American family. So this was very common. So like when we had the back west, the western days, where people were doing the trails, they're moving across the country in wagons and stuff. And then they were slaughtered by Indians, and the Indians would come up and scoop up the kids, and they would adopt them and raise them as their own. So those people are actually considered Native American, more Native American than Senator Warren, who only has 1/1000% of Native American. So she doesn't even have 1%. She doesn't have 1% of Native American. She's less than 1%. All right? So this is hurting her. Now all the tribes in America, the Native American tribes, are saying we deserve an apology from Senator Warren for trying to use this in her politics, because it's sickening. And also the Native Americans want to get a message across that, hey, we're still here in this country. We're still alive. So don't use us as a past tense. All right? So that's the end for that story. Next we have the creepy porn lawyer. He's back in the headlines again. He says he wants to run for 2020 as president on the Democratic ticket. But it's backfiring on him, because the ladies that he brought to testify against Kavanaugh earlier in the month, they were ruled out as not truthful or not enough evidence, and they're calling him a fake. And they said all he wants is publicity. So both the Republican and the Democratic parties are now fully against this creepy porn lawyer, and he has no chance in hell of winning in 2020. And that's the end of that story. All right, next in October, we have the USMCA deal. This is between the United States, Mexico, and Canada. This is a trade deal, the USMCA trade deal. This will take over the NAFTA deal that Canada, Mexico, and the United States had. This will give the United States more money and less going out, so to speak. This also helps Canada and it helps Mexico. So it helps all three countries better than the NAFTA deal ever did. A lot of people are calling it the NAFTA 2.0, or basically Trump's plan. But this really is good for everyone. The Mexican government came out and said, yes, this new trade deal is going to help them. Then Canada came out and said, yes, this trade deal is going to help us too. So, and then they're going to expand upon this trade deal. So it's not done completely yet. It is and it isn't. They left room to add on things for the future, so to speak. All right. So this is a very big win for all three countries, for all of North America. The Democrats, they poked fun at it at first, but they backed off pretty quickly once they heard Canada and Mexico say it was okay for them too. So both Democrats and Republicans are mostly okay with this new trade deal. All right, so let's move on. Kellyanne makes the news headlines again in October. This is after the court case for Kavanaugh, and they wanted to ask her about the case, and she refused. She threw it all back onto Bill Clinton for getting a blowjob in the office when he was elected and all that. All right, but that's not the story that I want to go over. The story is that made news headlines all over the world, and everybody knows her because she's like Trump's right-hand lady. She helped him win the presidency. as a campaign manager and all that. But so she came out and said, I have sympathy for Ford and every other woman that was sexually assaulted because she herself was sexually assaulted. And even the CNN reporter that was interviewing her at the time, he instantly knew that she was telling the truth, and his whole demeanor had shifted from aggressive to sorrowfulness. He became very sorry that this topic was coming up, and he apologized, and the rest of the interview was better. But basically, her deep dark secret that she was sexually assaulted in the past came out on national news, and so now the Republicans are like, oh, let's pray for Kellyanne and Conway. When in reality, I believe that's, as a Christian, I believe that's nonsense. It already happened. And we have to thank her for coming out and speaking about it, because we want more women to do the same. And yes, our prayers can be with her, but not out of pity. We should not be praying for people out of pity, because I feel like that's what a lot of the Republicans are doing, is praying for her out of pity. She doesn't want your pity, because she didn't even want to tell the story. It just came up in the heat of the moment when being interviewed. So, in reality, what you should be praying for is for her mental health and other people's mental health that were sexually abused. And I'm not calling her crazy. I don't mean it mental health in a bad way. I mean it as in the everyday stresses and anxieties that maybe the sexual assault has caused on her, because it does leave a mark on everyone that goes through something extreme like that. All right, so you can pray for her in that sense, but don't belittle her by praying for her as a sympathy. All right, and I hope also the Democrats can see that she is a human being too, and they will back off and stop name calling her and abusing her. As Democrats, you guys are always talking about being feminists and support of women, but all you guys do is always attack the Republican women. How are you ever going to get them to agree with you if all you do is spew hate out at them? So both parties need to learn from this lady that's coming out. All right. Next, we have the Rockford, Illinois GOP office. It's also, I think, a lawyer's office. The entire building on all four sides. I could have got all the images on here, but I just chose one of the images. They wrote rape and shame and 92718 all over. I don't know what the 92718 thing is. Maybe that's going back to the Brett Kavanaugh case. Like I said, I'm so sick and tired of hearing about that case. And but yeah, so graffiti all over the GOP building, and that's just causing more political divide in the country, really. So a lot of the Democrats say that these aren't people part of their party, but really when they're going to go vote for president, they're mostly going to vote Democrat. So as a independent, a message to all you Democrats: you guys really need to get your party in order. This bullshit has to stop. Like, you can't be going out and beating on people. You can't be vandalizing things. And message to the Republicans: you guys can't be seen associating with race haters and other things like that. So get your guys' shit in order. We need to come together as a country. This next news story is kind of funny. So Trump's coming out in New York. I believe he's leaving his Trump Tower. And obviously, motorcade, you have like a big long line of vehicles, some in front of Trump and some behind Trump. And then you don't know what vehicle Trump's actually in, to lower the chance of assassination and all that crap. But the funny thing is, these people were video recording on their cell phones. They were flipping off Trump, his whole motorcade, and they were all laughing about it because they're filming themselves and their finger flipping off Trump. And then Trump, they see Trump pop his head out the window, and he starts waving to all the people as he's driving by. He's just waving to all these liberals that are flipping him off, and you could listen to them on this cell phone video. Were shocked. They didn't know what to say. They were like dumbfounded for a minute. They're like, "Did he just wave at us? That's him waving at us." Like they didn't know how to take that. Because Trump could have been flipping him off back, but it just completely shut the whole situation down. And in life, this is kind of what people need to do. When someone's screaming at them, yelling at them, don't stoop to that level. Instead, treat those people with respect and make them feel stupid for what they're doing. I would say the same thing if this was President Obama and Republicans were flipping him off. No president in any country deserves that type of disrespect, unless those presidents are dictators. All right, and Trump is not a dictator. As much as a lot of people want to compare him to the Handmaid's Tales and Hitler, nothing could be further from the truth. That's just the far leftists trying to spin a story, and it's not real. If you really look into things, Trump's not a dictator. All right, let's move on. Next story we have up is pretty crazy. Secretary Mattis, we know him for being an Army general, or Mad Dog Mattis, and President Trump both sent separate envelopes, so 2 envelopes, and they did test positive for ricin, a deadly poison. So I believe ricin is grounded up. It's like some type of powder. I really don't know. I'm not some psychopathic killer that knows poisons. So that's just another huge thing that hit October, where they're calling it an assassination attempt. Alright, so tax fraud hits the headlines again in October. Donald Trump and his tax fraud. Okay, so the Democrats really love attacking Trump with the tax fraud stuff. None of it has come true yet, but the latest scandal is that a guy that won money from Melania Trump in a court case, he won like $1 million, a little over $1 million for some issue, and now he's attacking Trump. He came out in the New York Times, I believe it made front page, saying that when Trump's father gave Trump the money, his first millions of dollars of worth of money to invest in businesses, that Donald Trump then that year did tax fraud. So he didn't have to spend so much tax money on that money he got from his father. So this came to the news, all the news around the world, and now they're asking if Trump really did do tax fraud. And Trump obviously is going to say no, that he did not. And his lawyers on top of it proving that everything in that newspaper is wrong. And now that guy that won the lawyer case that written this news article is most likely going to be sued by Trump for defamation. So it's just crazy. I don't know if it's true or false or whatnot. Basically, the Trump team, what they're saying is true. In the paper, there's only one item that's true, and that's that he didn't do a lot of investments with his father, and his father stated that anything his son Donald Trump touches turns to gold. Alright, so let's move on. Alright, so this is kind of a funny news story that I'm sure everybody in America knows, and probably in every country knows. A lot of funnies were made about it, a lot of newspaper funnies, a lot of memes, a lot of late night shows made parodies of it. Basically, what happened in the month of October, they did a cell phone test to all carriers in case of an emergency. It read, "This is a test of the National Wireless Emergency Alert System. No action is needed." And the title says, "Presidential Alert." So this triggered a lot of people. mostly on the left side of politics. Some people were so sickened by this that they were literally crying and they were screaming and they were wondering how they could block future presidential alerts. So I guess we need to go into what if something bad really did happen? You really don't want a presidential alert? I mean, what if Russia is sending a nuke straight for California and California is predominantly liberal? And let's say a lot of liberals in California block this alert. You don't want to know that you need to get the hell, you need to get into a basement, or you need to get the hell over the border, or that you don't want to call your mom or your kids or your dad or your cousin or your boyfriend and wish them a one last I love you and it was nice knowing you type thing. Like, I don't understand the childish. I don't understand why people could be such children. I don't know why I can't say that word. Childish. I don't know why people are like that. Like, who cares? Even if it was Barack Obama, like, and Republicans were getting pissed off. Like, who the F cares? Like, it's good that we have these global alerts in case something bad happens. If an asteroid's going to hit, or if the volcano Yellowstone's going to explode. If Yellowstone explodes, literally it's going to kill like 90% of humanity in the world. So FYI, just so you guys know. And it is expected to explode in the next 50,000 years. People say, well, 50,000 years, that's a long time. Well, it explodes about every 600,000 years. So we're actually at the tail end of that 600,000 years. So it can explode at any time. Also in the news, I'm going to say this real quick. Since we're on the topic of Yellowstone, so 2 for 1 in this one. Scientists are now debating whether they're going to actually drill deep into Yellowstone, kind of like water wells, how we dig down to get water. Well, they want to dig down into the lava and pour water into the lava to cool it over the time. So they're estimating this would be like $3 billion per year if they did this for the rest of the country's lifespan. And that's like less than 1% GDP for United States. So it's really not a lot of money in the long term of things. So, but the risk factor, because nobody knows what's going to happen. What if you, by drilling into this lava, is actually going to set off the volcano? What if it's going to release all kinds of pressure? It's really scary. They're playing with fire and nobody knows what's going to happen. But first they need to be financed by the government before this even happens. One of the things that's against this for Yellowstone is it's a national park, and the citizens of America don't want that feature to be destroyed, because what they would have to do is build a big power plant to harness the energy coming up out of the vents. So it would be like almost like a nuclear plant or a solar plant, but it would be a lava plant. And they'd also need a water plant to put water into the ground. So it's a little crazy, and Yellowstone is a little crazy because it's been doing really weird things. Lakes have been drying up, then they're coming back, then they're drying up. There's been spurts of ash and debris coming out in different places that haven't done that for like 30 years. It's a little weird. So let's get on to the next October news story. Next, we have a former Democratic staffer in politics and presidential stuff. The staffer's name is Jackson Costco. He's charged with multiple felonies. He's being labeled as a doxer or releasing doxer files. Basically, it's almost kind of like, Edward Snowden, where he stole files that were supposed to be secret and then he's released them to the public. Well, this is kind of what this guy did, but in a political way. He stole files that were on Republicans and released them. Now they're calling this burglary, theft, also identity theft, and other charges, a bunch of other charges. So this guy's going to go away to jail or prison for a long time. And again, I'm not trying to pick on Democrats. This is just one of the stories that popped up in October. And I'm not only getting news from Fox News, I'm getting my stories from everywhere. So, just to be fair. Next up, we have Senator Susan Collins. She's a Democrat. She was also part of the Kavanaugh court thing that was going on. She came out after the FBI investigation was released, and she made it publicly known that the actual background investigation on Kavanaugh that everyone was saying was too short of time in less than a week was actually extremely thorough, and she doesn't see any deceit in it, and she doesn't see how they could have found any more information on the topic, that it was completely done correctly and legally. And so she's getting heat from her own Democratic Party for being a swing vote on allowing Kavanaugh to become the next Supreme Court justice. All right, next up to hit the news story, what hits home for me because I'm a Californian, is Jerry Brown made the global news again. Basically, he came out saying that California cannot afford to pass a bill that says all colleges should have abortion pills ready to hand out for their college students. So let me reiterate that really quick because that was a mouthful. Basically, what Jerry Brown is saying that California does not have enough money to pass a new bill that can pay for college students to get abortion pills at their local college. He said that there's enough within 6-mile radius of every California college. There is places to get abortion pills. And so he said, sorry, but we just don't have enough money. This isn't an issue really for Republicans. It's more of an issue for liberals. So it's his own party that he's trying to say he's sorry to. All right? So either way, I really don't care if they have abortion pills or at colleges. Like, it doesn't matter to me if they do or they don't. So even if this bill passed, I'm probably against it because I'm anti-tax. So I don't want to pay more taxes, and this would have cost me more taxes. But if it did pass and I paid a little bit more taxes for it, I wouldn't be like trying to burn the state down. All right. So like I said, I really don't care. I know Republicans are going to hate me for that because they're anti-abortion, but I'm not really anti-abortion. All right. All right, guys. So we're back in California with Governor Brown. This next news story is about net neutrality. I honestly don't know a lot about it. I really don't. But basically, he passed a law here in 2018 that is in favor of net neutrality, saying that all the internet companies need to not favor one website over the other. Basically, they can't push traffic to those popular websites. So, like, if everybody here in California likes YouTube, that when they go to search for videos, they can't only show YouTube all the time. They need to show other video outlets. All right, and as soon as he passed this law, the Trump administration issued a lawsuit against him and the state of California, saying that this is federally illegal. All right, so now there's going to be a legal battle, and I don't know. I really don't know a lot about net neutrality. All right, next, what happened in October? Melania Trump goes to Africa ahead of Trump. He later comes to Africa also. She makes 4 stops though. And, Melania Trump is very big on helping children. This is her role as First Lady. Every First Lady in our country usually picks up some type of job. Her job is helping children. So the whole goal of this trip for her is handing out gifts to the children in need, and also donating money, I believe, to classes that help young children develop westernized skills, so they could be so they could grow mental. What's the right word without sounding belittling? Um, these tools and skills that these children are learning will help them out in the long run to get a better grasp on westernized culture and job tasks. So when they are adults, things will go easier for them and they can maybe be more successful. All right, so let's move on. Next, we have Brandon Straka. He's the leader of the Walkaway Movement. It's like hashtag Walkaway. It started on Facebook. This movement was he was an ex-Democrat. He just switched over this year, and this whole movement basically was where Democrats come on and to the hashtag Walkaway Facebook page, and they leave testimonials, like video testimonials, like I'm doing right now, but talking about why they're leaving the Democratic Party and going over to the Republican Party. So this hit the news again right after the Kavanaugh court thing, and the Democratic Party thought that if Kavanaugh was found guilty, that all these people will come back over to their line, but it failed. Instead, it pushed even more people away. They were at about 300,000 Democrats that have walked away. Now they're closer to 500,000 Democrats that have walked away. And even people as in their 80s have done testimonials on these websites. There was a lady that was like 80 something, and her testimonial was about how she actually helped in elections and how she's been a Democrat her entire life, but after the whole Kavanaugh debacle, she was just fed up and she's done with the Democratic Party. And basically, they feel the main ideas floating around the walkaway is they feel like the Democratic Party is doing a disjustice to the minorities. They're saying that the Democratic Party says they're helping minorities, but in reality they're actually hindering them a lot more than the Republicans. And also the same for gays and lesbians. So, and this leader right here of the Walkaway Movement, he's actually gay, I believe. So, all right. End of that story. All right, next up we have the 28-year-old Congresswoman Alexandria Cortez. She just won on a ticket for being a socialist. This was very big on the news headlines. This was before October, though. But this isn't the reason why she's in this month's news story, not for winning. She's in the news story again because she misspoken. A lot of the people, you know how harsh Democrats were on George Bush because he didn't speak very well. Well, the Republicans are equally harsh on this lady because she doesn't speak well either. Her English is very good. She speaks perfect English. That's not the issue. The issue is when she talks, she's not very informative, or she doesn't really know what she's talking about, and she gets stuck or she misspeaks. She doesn't do her homework before speaking. So she's not very articulate in the messages she's trying to get across. So basically, she hit the news outlets because she said when she becomes inaugurated, she's going to start signing bills as if she was the president, like she just won the presidency. Well, she didn't win the presidency, and her title, her job as Congresswoman isn't going to be, she's not going to be inaugurated, and she's not going to be just signing bills. So people are calling her an idiot because she doesn't know what the hell she's talking about, and why do they even have her in this, since why is she even office if she doesn't even know what she's talking about, that type of stuff. She's been in the news ever since she won, and mostly for other issues of similar nature, just not understanding things. She's a socialist, so a lot of people try to question her about where's she going to get the money, why if she wants health care and all this for everybody, where is this money going to come from? And she never really has an answer. So people don't have a lot of faith in her on both parties. But since she was elected, the Democratic Party is now going more socialistic. So that's kind of scary. All right, let's move on. All right, next up for the month of October, we have Mercedes and Nissan, two huge car dealerships that have agreed to bring more business to America during the Mexico, Canada, and United States trade deal. This is the one we spoke about earlier in the show. Basically, Nissan and Mercedes are going to be allowing Americans to make more parts and stuff for their vehicles in America. So this is going to bring in a lot more jobs, a lot more money, and so that will be good. Next up, we have Toys R Us back in the news headlines, and they are reversing their bankruptcy. They are going to stop that process. This isn't the owner's choice. This is actually the lender's choice. So you have the owners that started it originally, then you have the board of advisors and all that crap, and then you have stock markets and all this stuff. But basically, a group of lenders that own majority of Toys R Us are actually going to try to save Toys R Us and Babies R Us. They said that the brand name carries too much weight still in our society, and they feel like they could still make a lot more money if they reopen up these stores. So this is very early on still, but they are going to try to back out of the bankruptcy and reboot up to Toys R Us. All right, as a brand. They're going to reboot it as a brand. So I'm not sure if this means they're going to try to mostly do everything online or if they're going to open up store locations. But they wanted to be very clear that it's the brand name that they really want. Next up, in the month of October, we have Kanye West making the news again. I believe he made it last month. He was on a Saturday Night Live show, and he didn't want to take off his Make America Great Again hat, and the producers were getting very pissed off at him. They threatened to kick him off the show if he wouldn't remove it. Then he made the news again this month in October when he had an interview with TMZ reporters, and the head guy of TMZ said, "Hey, can you take off your hat for me? And it's disrespectful to me." And Kanye West said, "No, I'm not going to be bullied to take off my hat. I have the right to wear this hat, and it doesn't mean anything derogatory." And the TMZ reporter said, "Well, to me it does, and to other people it does. They see that hat as something bad." And Kanye West kind of thought about it for a second. He said, "How does making our country great again mean something bad?" And the TMZ reporter was kind of stuck. He said, "Well, they believe Trump's a racist," and he goes, "But I'm a black man and I don't see that." And he goes, "And I'm not going to be bullied to take off my hat." So then that's the end of that. Then Kanye West makes news again later in October when he visits Donald Trump. It was him and one other man. I forget the man's name. I apologize. He may come up again in this episode. But basically, he had a long speech in the Oval Office with Trump about how he wants to help people and all this stuff, help our country. And the liberal media got all over Kanye West, saying that he's insane, calling him a Negro, that he's a Uncle Tom, that he's whitewashed, that he's not a true black man. Then we got people like Snoop Dogg coming into the media in October, saying that they're not friends anymore, and that Snoop Dogg just found out that some other dude, I believe it was Drake, had sex with Kanye's wife and made a song about it. Her name is Kiki on the song. So it was all this political drama, just the whole left side just shitting on Kanye West. And even Kanye West admits that, since his car accident, he's been a little off. Then we have another news report coming in about Kanye West. His teacher, one of his ex-teachers when he was in high school, came out, or maybe it was middle school. Either way, came out onto the news saying how Kanye West was a loner. He was always off. He seemed very weird. Well, guess what? Karma came back to bite her in the ass, and she got fired. All right, because you're not supposed to be talking about students. It's privacy and all that. All right, so we are going to move on. All right, so I also need to add on to the Alexandria Cortez story. She also came out and did an interview on the TV, and she let something slip very big that George Soros, an ex-German Jew that was not in the internment camps because his father was German, his stepfather was German. So there's been this whole all the far right people believe that George Soros is the one that funds all these rallies, these activists, these Antifa people going out and hurting people, and he's always the go-to evil guy for the far right movement. And the news are always saying, no, that's fake, that's not true. He was a Jew in Holocaust, and why would he be so why would he be like that? Why would he be trying to promote violence? Why would he be trying to take over United States? So basically what this lady says is that he's actually the one that helped her win the election, that he paid for all the protesters and stuff and all the rallies. So she threw him under the bus. So this isn't good for George Soros. Now Trump can fully come out. We've been seeing it a lot in the month of October where he blames everything on George Soros now. So this whole far-fetched idea has turned true, and now George Soros is not looking very good. So this is going to be very bad for him. Then we have Trump back in the news media, and he's talking about how it's a very dangerous place in America for young men. And the reason for this is that our country, society, no longer believes in innocent until proven guilty. You are now guilty until proven innocent. And this has been a thing going on since Trump became president, that everyone is guilty until they can prove their innocence. And so it is a very scary time because things are not supposed to be like that. If someone has an accusation of, you raped me, so now everybody's believing that, oh, that must be true. So that person that is just being accused is actually guilty, and now he has to prove his innocence. Whereas in the past, if I say Trump raped me, well, Trump is innocent until I could prove he's guilty. So there's a mixed mash of things going on. And he's telling young men to be wary. He's telling his Republican Party to be wary that anything you do can come back to bite you because you're automatically guilty in the eyes of the Democrats. Another thing that Trump did in October, obviously Trump did a lot of things. Okay, so now we're on to the Iran deal in 1955. And Trump's been doing a lot of sanctions and tariffs and all these things to get Iran to be good to America. So he's been being very hard on trade with them, using trade as a hammer. And the UN said, hey, look, you gotta be nice. The Iran is part of the UN, and you gotta you have the 1955 trade deal, so you need to stop doing this, and you actually need to start giving more to Iran. And so what Trump did was he ordered Pompeo to actually uh, pull out of the 1955 Iran deal. And so now the UN is in a panic. So they tried to backstab Trump, and Trump ended up backstabbing them. It's pretty crazy. So this is kind of the evil mastermind that Trump gets his notoriety from. That, hey, if you think you can mess with me, I'm going to mess with you twice as hard. And I'm saying evil because a nice guy wouldn't be doing that. Not that I think Donald Trump is evil, but this is what most people feel that he is. And this is where he gets a bad rep. But really, when you really break it down and look into it, this is very good. This means now that we can do whatever we want with Iran, and we don't have the UN trying to hold us back. So this should scare Iran even more into being nicer to the United States and other westernized cultures. Also, this lets the UN know that any type of funds that they want to go to Iran, well, now only their countries are going to have to pay for them, not the United States. We will not give any money to Iran. Next, we have Alyssa Milano breaking the news. This is shortly before her revamped show of Charmed, which was a total nightmare. I'll get into that a little later. Basically, she wants to come out, show that she's a feminist, saying that Trump is wrong. It's not a hard time for men in this country, that it's a hard time for women, and basically calling him a liar. And then the CNN news reporters ask her, well, there's a lot of people that agree with Trump, and she called everyone that agrees with Trump that they are being brainwashed by Trump and they are in a cult. So basically, she called all of right-wing Americans being in a Trump-like cult state. All right, let's get on to her. I'll just do it right now. The new episode of Charmed premiered just a couple days ago, and it was a total flop. First of all, the acting was very subpar. It was very cheaply done. It felt rushed. And then we're going to get into the politics since we're doing news. It was a very, very full-on feminist movement, women power, anti-rape culture, the Me Too movement, everything like lesbianism, everything all thrown into one episode. So really, you weren't even getting this episode of witchcraft and drama. You were getting an episode full of brainwashed, liberal, jumbo type stuff. Which, if you really sit back and think about it, first, this revamped Charmed, the producers, they said they'd let everybody know that this was going to be a feminist type show. So right away, there's going to be some of that into the show. So anybody watching, you have no excuse. If you're watching it, you're just going to have to deal with it. So I dealt with it. I watched the first episode because I really liked the old Charmed. And this first episode just really put me off because that's all it was. It was all about lesbianism, all about women's power. Don't rape that women. Like, you'd see like people making out, and one of the head actresses would always tell them, you have rights. You don't have to kiss him. Or if he's touching you too much, tell him to stop. Like, it was like that through the whole show. It was like just constantly. It made you lose track of the story. At the end, you're like, what the hell is even going on in this show? All I'm getting is this political rants on how men are evil and women are empowered. And looking into it, I was like, well, I'm watching this show knowing that it's going to be on witches, which are very powerful women, and I respect that. I knowingly am watching this because women are they're powerful. I don't have any problem with that. That I feel like women are equal to men. But so I'm going into it, level headed, and after a while, I'm just being hammered over the head with this type of mentality. It's like, dude, I agree that women have rights, but I don't need to be watching this crap. I want to watch the story. Like I'm reading a book. I don't want to be watching a news thing or a documentary. So I was very put off by the episode, and then I looked at all the ratings on all the YouTube videos, on all the websites, and it got horrible, horrible reviews. So I believe this show will be canceled. Next, we have Obama making the news headlines. He goes off and he says he's endorsing a bunch of socialist Democrats that are running for these elections for midterms. And now the liberal media and the Republican media are both saying, well, was Obama technically a socialist president? And the consensus is, yeah, they feel that he was a socialist president. And so this is news, maybe not to some, but it is to others. It's kind of like, okay, yeah, now Barack Obama's out in the open and he fully supports socialism. Next, we have John Bolton. He's one of Trump's advisors. He was in a press conference, and a reporter asked, why are you saying Palestine is not a state? Basically, she's trying to catch him in a trap. This is something very common with reporters. They try to catch you in something and hold you to it so later on they can play sound bites. She kept trying to tell him that Palestine is an actual state. By state, we don't mean like state of California. Often countries are called states, if you didn't know that. Alright, so Bolton said, technically Palestine is not a state because it doesn't have defined boundaries, it doesn't have a defined ruling government, and there's other scenarios that play into it, and he could go on and on about why Palestine doesn't technically qualify as a state. But the easiest example is that it's widely known by other legal governments that Palestine is not a statehood yet. That they need to go through the process of actually defining what they own, who's ruling it, and the structures and all that. That they never actually did that. So, that might piss off a lot of you Palestinian people, you pro-Palestinian, because I know there's a lot of anti-Israel, pro-Palestine, or pro-Israel and anti-Palestine. I don't know who's right or wrong. Technically, if you guys want a quick history lesson, Israel, the Jews from Germany that were in the Holocaust, they weren't from the Middle East. Maybe at one point in time they were, but they actually lived in Russia and Germany and Hungary and all those areas for many, many generations. And most of them had a lot of mixed European blood. So after World War II, what the UN did was they went and conquered a piece of the Middle East, and they transplanted those Jews back into Israel, what they call now Israel. And so the Palestinians are technically correct that these people are not truly from there. They're actually European Jews. They're not Middle Eastern Jews. So that is correct. But we have to go back to the conquest system. How do you become a country? How do you define new borders? Well, you conquest. Then you make a map of your conquest. And then you tell the whole world of your conquest. And then you back up your conquest with military power. Palestine can say that Israel belongs to them, but they have to be aggressive and use force and try to take it over. After so many years of not being able to take it over, you're either in a stalemate or you give up. They are technically in a stalemate and they are not giving up, and that's why they're not considered a state because they haven't defined their borders. Uh, they still include Israel as their borders. All right. Next, we have a MSNBC reporter, Mika Bergrinsky. She's a lady, if you're watching my video, with the blonde hair. You probably see her a lot on TV. She basically calls out her fellow news reporters, saying that, you guys are being too emotional, that Trump is actually winning by discrediting us, that every time we say something that isn't truly what's the word, investigated fully, because a lot of times with these news they want to get the thing out there as soon as something happens. So let's say someone calls in MSNBC and they say, hey, Trump just slapped a black person. So right away they're going to have a news story up within seconds. Trump hits a black person. And then 2 days later, they retract the stories. Oh, we're sorry. The person that told us that they were slapped by Trump, they were lying, and we apologize. We're taking it back. But the party foul has already been done. Everybody has been talking about how Trump hit a black person for 2 days. So this is something that's getting on Americans' nerves. And so this MSNBC host is trying to tell our colleagues that, hey, this stuff is biting us in the butt. We need to stop it. That Trump is gaining momentum by us not being, correct on things. And then, so this starts a whole debacle. Then over the next week, a bunch of other MSN and CNN hosts come out and say, wow, Trump is actually doing a good job with our economy. Because the new statistics came out. This is before the crash, because we just had a crash a couple days ago, 3% in the stock market. But before that, most of October, we had record highs of people working. I think it was like the highest or the lowest unemployment rate ever in American history, meaning that we have the most people working in our country ever as a country. So a lot of CNN and MSN and ABC and CBS, all these left-wing media news sites had to give Trump credit. They're finally saying, okay, Trump is actually bringing more jobs to America, and we can't lie about it. All right. Next up, we have a male feminist that was at some type of rally. I think it was like abortion or something. So there was conservatives there that are anti-abortion, and basically, not this guy in the picture. I couldn't find a picture of the guy that actually did it. He's only in videos, and I didn't feel like taking a picture. But basically, a male feminist, roundhouse kicked a conservative lady right in the face. So a roundhouse kick. So this is one of those things that is conservatives constantly ask liberals, if you're a feminist, then why do you attack conservative women? And they never answer that question. They always skirt the question and talk about something else. So that's a good question though. Like, why, if you're a feminist, why are you hitting women? What the fuck is your deal, dude? And then we got another lady that just a couple days ago, she looked like I'm not trying to be mean. She looked like a lesbian, like a butch lesbian. She was part of the Antifa movement and the Black Lives Matter movement. She was a white lady, and she started beating the hell out of a bystander that was just happened to be there. And when you're walking by an Antifa movement, you start to ask them questions like, "What are you doing here?" And then you get into a debate. Well, this lady hated this debate, and she just lost it on this fucking poor lady that was just walking by and started beating the hell out of her. So I don't understand these feminist people that are doing this to other ladies. It's just crazy. Crazy, crazy, crazy. Next, we have up the NFL. So they're still doing their kneeling down protests and stuff like that. Then we have the Packers that they fucked up the American flag. It didn't even look like our country's flag for a halftime show. It was just, they came out with some weird flag. I don't know what it was. Anyways, Trump does something surprising for the NFL. Instead of bad mouthing them, he actually talked them up in the USMCA trade deal. So the Mexican, Canada, American trade deal. And basically, he's getting rights for the NFL to show their games, and especially the Super Bowl, in Canada and probably Mexico also. And this wasn't allowed before because the Canadians wanted their own advertisements to run during the Super Bowl. You know how America has all these high priced ads. Well, Canada wanted to do their own ads for the game. And now, under Donald Trump's new agreement, it's going to allow the NFL to do the Super Bowl and other games in Canada. And they get to tailor the ads to Canadians, meaning that they're still going to be in charge of the ads, the NFL is, and they're still going to make them, but they're going to do it for Canadians also. And so the NFL commissioner is very happy with Trump again after hating Trump about bad mouthing the kneeling down thing. All right. Next up on the news, we have Jeff Bezos, the owner of Amazon, and he made the news headlines by saying that in order to get more workers in their factories, they're going to raise the minimum wage in every single state to $15 an hour. Now, they already, like in California, are paying a lot more than that. I believe they're paying like $17 or $18 an hour. But this is really going to help the other states that make like $7 an hour or whatever like that. But something that you guys should know if you're going to work for Amazon, they don't care when you're hurt or sick, they will fire you. So expect to work all the time. Expect to work long hours, expect to be called in, and if you don't show up, even though it's your day off, you're going to get fired. All right? Also, if you get hurt on the job, they're automatically going to fire you because they automatically believe that you're going to sue them. So, this is something that I know because I've had lots of friends that work in an Amazon factory near me, and I'm not saying that it's all the factories across the United States, but it definitely is the one here near where I live. All right, now we're moving on to China. Pence gets pissed off. Vice President Pence of America gets pissed off at China, saying that all these propaganda ads they're running against Trump is going to backfire on them. Also, earlier in the month, Trump placed more sanctions on them, threatened saying that China's going to have to pay more for stuff and yada yada yada, and tariffs and all that type of stuff, all these trade war type stuff. Well, also just I don't know if it was today or yesterday, China just did a blow to America. They just sold off $3.5 billion worth of U.S. debt. Now, I'm not sure what exactly that means. Who are they selling it to? All I know is that this hurts the U.S. economy. I don't know how much, but it's usually hurts the U.S. economy because the investors then lose faith in America. Investors start to pull out. It's so like a domino effect. So we haven't really felt the hit yet, but the stock market's probably going to get hit a little bit more. The reason why we had the 3% hit a couple days ago or a few days ago was because of Turkey. Because of the whole Turkey and Saudi Arabia, the assassination of the ex-Saudi Arabian politician that went into the embassy in Turkey, and he got shot, or not shot. The Turkey has evidence that the Saudi Arabian embassy in Turkey killed him while they were interviewing him, and they chopped up his body into pieces, and they took it out in bags, and they disposed of the body somewhere, and then they had cleaners go in and out several times of the buildings. And then Saudi Arabia finally said, yes, we were interviewing him, and then he died, but he died on natural causes. First, the Saudi Arabia was saying, no, he didn't die, he left our embassy. Now they're changing their tune, saying, yes, he did die in our embassy, but we didn't kill him. So this caused a whole bunch of economy crash for Turkey, for Saudi Arabia, America, and other countries. Turkey just got a $15 billion injection. Some rich dude gave them that money, but he obviously wants to be paid back. And we all know how that goes. So if you pay $15 billion, he's probably going to get $30 billion back. All right, guys. Next, we have gas prices. They're raising across the country. They're the highest since 2014, and this is right before the midterm elections, which California has repeal the gas tax thing in their ballots. So I really hope most Americans, even the Democrats, all vote against that, or vote for it. I'm sorry, we should vote for it to repeal this law in California, because we're paying an extra like 50 cents more than every other state. So if the other states think you have it bad with gas prices, well, come visit California, because they're raping us. Okay, guys, back to China again. They got caught red-handed. We always knew that they're stealing America's technology. Well, Amazon was going to buy a new company, and they did an investigation in the company and all the computers and hardware, and they found these little chips, and they weren't sure what the hell they were. They find out they're made in China. Then they start running tests on them, and what these chips do is they open a back door into data processing servers, and then they could take that information and send it back to China without anyone ever even knowing. They were planted by the Chinese government's army. You got to be specific. And it was planted in banks, in Apple, in Amazon, and 30 other companies. So this is a big scandal for China. We knew it was always happening. Now we know how. And yeah, it's pretty crazy. Next, we have the NRA, the National Rifle Association, back on the news. We had someone running for governor, and he said he had an A rating from the NRA, and the NRA fired back saying, no, you don't. You used to have an A rating, but that was when you were governor several years ago. Now you have a D rating, and you need to take down your ad. And they said to vote for his opponent. So the NRA also said that this dude tried to take away Second Amendment rights from the NRA and Americans, so that's why they give him a D rating. Alright, guys, now we're going to round out the show because we're reaching that hour and 30 mark. So, other things that happened in October, we have Taylor Swift. She came out saying to vote Democrat. This angered a lot of Republicans. Some of the liberal media said this might help Democratic state actually win. So it could be a good thing for Democrats, but in the long run it could be a bad thing for Taylor Swift, because not as many people are going to buy her music or go to her shows. That's just a choice she made, kind of like Kanye West. Alright, then we have the new Roseanne Barr show that came out. It's called now The Conners. We all know what happened with Roseanne. She said some politician lady looked like a mix between a Planet of the Apes and something else. I don't really know. She says it was not racist. I do believe her. She also said she was on Ambien and drinking alcohol that made her loopy. She said she made that reference because it's a political thing, and either way, she didn't even know the lady was black. She thought she was Iranian or Jewish. Anyways, the Conners, let's get back on track. The Conners was a flop. Some people said it was good. It might actually survive without Roseanne. Others said that it just wasn't the same. And also, the TV show producers came out and said, hey, we think we fired Roseanne too prematurely. We think we made a huge mistake. So obviously they're already double guessing what they said. Next, we have lots of Antifa outbreaks. People burning down trucks and other vehicles people in the parking lots because they might have like a Trump sticker or something on there. Then we have old people getting beaten up during these protests and rallies, just people walking by. We have Antifas in Oregon blocking traffic and rerouting traffic. And also we have the cops just standing by doing nothing. And that's because the mayor told them to do nothing. There's been big fights breaking out between the Proud Boys and Antifa. And people are getting hurt. And the police aren't interacting. It's been a wild, wild month. And we're not even done with it yet. We still got over 10 days left in October. I just need to get this episode out because I pay monthly for my podcast hosting, and I'm allotted so many hours a month. And since I had a couple interviewees back out, I had to come up with something to throw out there. And I wanted something that, is current and something that maybe people doesn't know what's going out. Also, we have Facebook. Facebook and Google, and they're still blocking conservative pages. They're deleting pages. We got YouTube that's banning conservative views. They're all attacking conservatives on social media, trying to pass more liberal media before the midterm elections come out. We have Google that has a big deal with China going on, and they're also being investigated by the Senate in America because they don't want them to help China spy on people, because essentially that's what they're going to do. Is with this new agreement, they're building websites and computers that are going to send back statistics to China. So they're doing it for Chinese citizens, but basically it will rat out these citizens to the government. And right now the president there is becoming kind of a tyrant or a dictator. He's tearing down churches. He's tearing down all kinds of things that he doesn't agree with, putting away people in prison. So America's very anti-China at the moment, and they don't want Google to help China. Also, one of the things that Google's working on for America that China already has is like a Skynet type thing, where we have cameras all around the entire country, and they're all connected, and everybody has facial recognition, so you can literally track every citizen in America or in China, know exactly where they are at all times. You could hear them on the cell phones. So this is something very big going down, and the Republicans are trying to keep that from happening, but it's probably going to pass next time we have a Democratic leader in office. I'm just letting you guys know. Also, what's happening, I just saw this today. We have people from Honduras. Most likely they came out of Venezuela because the people are starving to death there. Venezuelan inflation rate just hit over 1 million%. It's like almost 1.4 million%. They absolutely have no money. They have no food. They're literally starving to death. They've all lost about 20 to 40 pounds each person, and there's over 1,000 people on their way towards America. Right now, they're at the Honduras and Mexico border, and President Trump threatened Honduras. They said if you let them pass that border into Mexico, and if they come into America, then we're not giving you any more money. Because we've been giving Honduras money to help their country survive. Oh, also, we have a 5-year-old girl that was attacked in a school earlier this week, just a few days ago. She was attacked by another student that came into the female's bathroom, and was a transgendered child. It was, so technically it was born male. Now it's transgendering into a female. And this transgendered child that was a few years older than this girl, this 5-year-old girl, sexually harassed her, was touching her in her private areas. So that's a big debacle going down. Then we have another issue at another school where a senior boy, he just turned 18. He's wearing he was at it's an actual political themed event night for American unity and stuff like that. And he wore a Trump shirt with the flag on. And the principal came in and pulled him out, told him to change his shirt. Well, she then gets fired like a week later because the whole thing was about, having Americans come together. So there was no reason for her to pull him out. Now we have CNN. They're being viewed as racist from their own black party. So that's a new thing going on. AT&T is coming out with their own Netflix-like app. So Obamas are upset because they make a lot of money from Netflix. They're huge investors in Netflix. It's one of their main breadwinner. The whole Nike scandal with the whole thing going on there with football and all that. A sheriff at a jail, he made all his people take pictures. So all the convicts that come in, they take mug shots with wearing a Nike shirt to kind of give Nike a bad rap. So that's pretty funny. Now we got the liberal media also. They don't like the word mob because the Republicans are saying that all these Antifa people and these protesters are mobs, and they're attacking people in restaurants. They're attacking people on the streets, and the liberals are not calling them mobs. They're saying that's not a definition of a mob. So they're very upset. Their feelings are hurt. Next, we have a news reporter that was actually trying to ask some old people some questions at a rally, saying, why are you, pro-Democrat and all that type of stuff? And, what about the Brett Kavanaugh thing? And this old guy said, this old liberal, he said, well, I could throw you down right now on the ground and rape you, and I guess I'll get away with it. And she goes, you're going to rape me? He goes, yeah, I'll rape you right now. And so he got in trouble for that. Then we have Melania Trump lookalike on a music video, a very popular rap video. I'm not even going to tell you the name of it because I don't want to endorse him. And she's basically stripping in the Oval Office. So that's becoming political. And we got all this crazy shit going on. Now we got another second hazmat team going into senators' offices for another second Ricin attempt. It's just crazy. I don't know. I don't know where to go at. I think I'm done with this episode because there's just so much that's going on. I guess the last story is very recent, just 7 hours ago. A liberal woman says a boy sexually assaulted her. Then the law enforcement actually looked into it, and they found all kinds of proof that this boy never even met her. It's an older lady, and that they said that, we don't have any type of evidence ever showing you guys ever met, and so they ruled that out. And actually, I think she's being now charged for falsifying a crime. All right, so that's what's going on in October. A lot of stuff. I'm sorry it was a long episode, but it is just a lot to handle. All right, well, thank you for watching. I hope you guys watch my other episodes. They aren't so political.
We hope you enjoyed this episode.
Have a good day.
If you'd like to find out more about Killing the Void podcast, you can visit our website at www.killingthevoid.com. You will find links to download our latest episodes. Thank you and have a good day.